right, hopefully that's working. All right. So a couple of videos ago, I talked about the theological virtues. Last video, I talked about hope. No, I talked about faith. I already spoiled it for this one. Hope. That's what I'm talking about today. So it's faith, hope, and love. And it seems to kind of go like in an order. The greatest is love, all that stuff. If you've ever read the Bible, like without faith, you can't have hope really, and without faith, you can't really have love. And even hope. Without hope, you can't have love either. So you can't have really any of those without the other. Because if you have faith and you don't have like love, you don't have charity and that kind of stuff, like an act of the will, then your faith doesn't really mean anything. It's just like, that's why, like I said in the faith video, it's like it has to kind of, I was kind of like alluding to love. You really have to do something, right? And I was reading some of the little intros in the Bible, and apparently like Paul's letters, and like people that are really up about faith, they'll quote like Paul's the epistles, right? Paul's letters. But one of the intros says that the book of James is a little bit more focused on, I think it's the book of James. Yeah, that it's a little bit more focused on work. That it kind of seems to contradict Paul's view of salvation. And that's usually the one that that's usually the book that I guess Catholics quote. Yeah. So James, the book of James, which apparently was not written by James, who is alleged to be Jesus' brother. It was written by some dude. Oh, it was written by somebody that was well educated and that spoke Greek. So I mean, that's something new, right? I learn things all the time. This is probably stuff that people already knew, but this is cool, right? But I'm not talking really about the book of James today. But it just kind of shows like a fulfilling of what the theological virtues are. So faith, hope, and love, or some people like faith, hope, and charity. But I use trust a little bit more to mean faith, because that's pretty much what it means. Hope, I don't really know what else to use other than like expectation is used interchangeably with hope. So yeah, like hope is just as important as the other ones, but you can't really have hope without faith, and love doesn't really like mean anything unless you have hope and also faith. So this is like a good transition, but also like a very important virtue that you don't just get to have. You don't get to just say, oh, I'm hopeful, and then like it means anything. It's like, to be hopeful, usually it's shown through your actions in love, but also it's something that like you kind of have, right? Like, you're like a hopeful person about things. You can kind of get like excited about it. It's something you can really look forward to, right? And a lot of people, like especially like me, like I'm pretty like laid back, whatever. I kind of let things just like let things happen. And I think a lot of that attitude kind of comes from like the hopefulness that you have like as a young person, and how that's kind of broken down through different trials. Like different trusts broken or whatever. You kind of like there's a lot of people that have a lot of hope just naturally, right? And it's like people that have like a little bit less of it kind of like look at that and be like, that's dope, but they also kind of want to crush it. It's kind of funny. It's like, it's funny. It's a little dark and whatever, but it's kind of funny, So it's like, I'm so hopeful, But then like if you're an adult having like a lot of hope, people are like, that's annoying. I don't need you to, because a lot of people, they lose it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like if you've been divorced, or if like something has happened to you in your childhood, something traumatic. Anything that you like knew you could do something about, and you were like, oh, this is gonna be great. You have all this hope about it, Even if somebody's like, oh, you shouldn't have that much hope, things aren't gonna work out, you still have it, because you just want to be like stubborn or whatever, you have all this hope, and then people lose it, Like I say like I'm one of the biggest examples of that, where like, yeah, I had like, you have all this expectation, all this hope about certain things, college, getting married, parents, family, money, all this stuff. You have all this hope about, like, especially when you're young, and then for whatever reason just kind of gets broken down, and that's usually people say, oh, that's life, you just get disappointed, and then you lose the hope. And that's like a terrible way to go about things, but it's also appropriate, because it kind of shows that putting a hope in something that isn't going to last is going to usually destroy your hope, and also lead to you kind of just becoming like practicing that a little bit more. It's like you just become a little bit more cynical. You're just like, whatever, college, don't go to college. It's stupid because it just disappoints you so much. Don't depend on these random people because they just disappoint you so much, right? So hope it means a lot. It moves mountains. Like it makes people do things, especially people that have so much hope in themselves, even though they're not very vocal about it, like somebody that can change the world, like the technological giants of the last century and of this century, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates. They're not like super like, like, hope. That's how they talk. And they're just like, things are gonna be pretty good, in a couple of years. But it's like it doesn't. You don't need to be super like energetic and like excited when you talk about things. But having like that hope within yourself, even if it's a quiet hope that you don't need to like tell everybody about, because that's usually probably not a good idea. Because people love to destroy that hope, right? And you also lose it within yourself when you kind of see yourself disappoint other people with it by not fulfilling those hopes too. Is that when you have that quiet hope, you can usually do like fantastic things, and you don't have to create electric cars. You don't have to create the next iPhone. You can just like work at Best Buy. That's fine. Like you can work at Dollar General. I used to work at Dollar General. You can work as a waiter. You can work as anything, and it's honorable. You have a lot of hope for what you expect that day, what you expect in the next moments, what you expect. I'm petting my dog right now. So you just like hope is important because it gets you through things, moves you, and it infects other people, because when you're hopeful about something and it's fulfilled, usually because of like your actions and your love and your pursuit, because you don't give up on it, right? It's like if you have that strong hope, you don't give up on things. Crap. Yeah, it infects other people, because even though people are doubtful about your hope because they've seen it not work out, if you fulfill it, if you prove it, even if you're younger than them, even if they think they're more wise than you or smarter, whatever, they'll follow you. That's all it takes. It's for you to have hope and to prove them wrong when they doubt your hope. If you have hope and they have hope, it's even better, because but like if they doubt you, they'll eventually get that hope too if you fulfill what it is that you think is going to produce those gifts that you're hoping or expecting, right? So as like a waiter, you're hopeful that if you do certain things, you carry the menus with you, or you carry the napkins with you, or you ask people like what they want to order in like a specific way, and you get like people to maybe like enjoy their meal a little bit more because they like order certain things. I'm talking from experience. Like I kind of enjoyed the structure of it, right? It gave me like a framework to like change around and like figure out what it is that I can do to like better people's experience in it, because like it wasn't gonna last long, but I wanted to make it fun. You can kind of change things for a little while, right? And it may not last after you leave, but it's just like it's that excitement, it's that hope that it's just like if it impacts one person, it's gonna change a lot, and you just need to like fulfill what it is that you're hopeful about, right? And it's like you expect gifts from a certain situation. If you put in the trust for it and you have the will, like the act to do good in it, it's going to bring about certain gifts. And when it comes to the Bible, the gift is usually grace from God, right? You don't have to really be a biblical person to understand that hope means everything. It means just as much as faith. It means, I guess, not as much as love according to the Bible. But it's like, it's very important that leads up to love. Without it, who cares if you're doing all these acts? If you're doing them monotonously, even if like you're doing them and it's like bringing about all these gifts, you're not really hopeful about it. Like people don't care, and it's not going to change anything, right? But you need to have that kind of hope. It's like you speak in a way that's hopeful. You don't speak all negatively and doubtful about things. You speak in a way that's like, well, this is going to happen. This is what you should expect when you work this way, when you have this trust that you have for certain things. So I've been ranting for 10 minutes. All right, I'm going to put like a little timestamp on this one. So 9:38. Let me start looking for it. All right, so I like what the Bible says about it, because like when people talk, like I said in the last video, when people talk about this stuff, like when people talk about hope or faith or love, or not faith, but like trust or whatever, charity with love, they usually talk very small. Like it's not something great. When they talk about like trust or faith in the Bible, it's like they say you can move mountains, or you can like, you can move mountains or throw them into the sea, and then like it's gonna happen, or you can like tell a fig tree to wither, and it will. And it's like, I've never seen it done, and nobody's ever seen it done. You know what I'm saying? But people see it, like, I wouldn't say nobody, but the apostles and Jesus stops the wind, all that stuff. The tree. But like, let's say somebody who ain't Jesus. Jesus says that you have this power too, I guess, or this. If you have this trust, these kind of things can happen. And I'm guessing he's speaking metaphorically, but we'll see if somebody corrects me at some point, right? But it's like, that's why I like when reading out of the Bible about it, because like they care so much about these virtues. Like when people talk about faith, hope, and love, just like isolated, they usually don't speak about it in like terms of the other, and it's important to speak about it that way. But also, they don't speak about it in a way that's appropriate, because like you're using it like as a very small way. Like love, people speak about it pretty highly, but it's even then, it's not really the extent of what you should be speaking, how you should be speaking about it, because it does more than you can imagine, right? As is promised. All right, so 1 Peter 1:13. Let's see, or not? No, 1:3 through 6. So this section's called like a living hope. It said, "Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. By His great mercy, He has given us a new birth into a living hope, through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and an inheritance, and into an inheritance that is imperishable, undefiled, unfading, kept in heaven for you, and unfailing, kept in heaven for you, who are being protected by the power of God through faith for a salvation ready to be revealed in the last time. In this you rejoice, even if now for a little while you had to suffer various trials, so that the genuineness of your faith, being more precious than gold that being more precious than gold that, though perishable, is tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Although you have not seen Him, you love Him. And even though you do not see Him now, you believe in Him and rejoice with an indescribable and glorious joy, for you are receiving the outcome of your faith, the salvation of your souls. Concerning this salvation, the prophets who prophesied of the grace that was to be yours made careful search and inquiry, inquiring about the person or time that the Spirit of Christ within them indicated, when it testified in advance to the sufferings destined for Christ and the subsequent glory. It was revealed to them that they were serving not themselves, but you, in regard to the things that have now been announced to you through those who brought you good news by the Holy Spirit sent from heaven, things into which angels long to look." So this is what I mean by like hope, and like the things that the Bible talks about. That's like, people talk about hope like it's some small thing, or it's just kind of this thing that people have, and it's like whatever. But when you have it like in the most appropriate context, it means like all this stuff, right? Like it's what it says: imperishable, undefiled, and unfading, kept in heaven for you, right? So it's like, let's focus on like the unfading and imperishable, undefiled thing. It's like that's usually what makes people lose their hope. Is they have this hope and then they get disappointed because it's not fulfilled. And people even lose their hope in their faith, right? In the Christianity, whatever it is whatever religion that they're a part of, because whatever what was promised to them and they trusted in isn't seem to be delivered. When the Babylonian exile, the prophet Isaiah spoke about that. The book of Isaiah, whichever prophet wrote that at the time. But it was that, it's like you, even in the greatest gifts, you can lose hope in it. That's like the worst thing that can happen for you sometimes, because when you have hope in these like great gifts and then you lose it, like I've believed in things that weren't true, right? For example, like young earth creationism, certain ways of like living my life, kind of like hedonistic perspective, like pleasure oriented sort of a thing. And it promises you great things, right? It promises you all this stuff. It promises you almost like a perfect life. It sounds great. But when it's not delivered, it's not, given to you. It's one of the hardest things to lose hope in, and you get massively disappointed, and you guard yourself from then on, right? And that's like good. It's a good mechanism, because it kind of shows you like, if you're going to be hopeful in the right things. Because if you're not hopeful in the right thing, it can lead you down a pretty dark path, because if you never get off of it, then it's like, you look at those people that never got off of it, and they're like, they've never been disappointed by it or whatever. And you're just like, man, that's rough. What you're going, like, you're believing in this stuff that's not true, and it's making you look like a nut. it's making you act like a nut. It's making you act crazy. You're isolating yourself to the point, right, where it's like, it's not necessary. You're unnecessarily isolating yourself. You're unnecessarily suffering, and it's all in vain because you're hoping in something that's never going to be delivered. And I gave examples, but I'm talking about anything specifically. It's just like anything you can think of. When you have this hope in something and it's like it disappoints you, like a relationship. A lot of people go through that. It's like, yeah, you guard yourself, and you're older. These older people that are a little bit older and have gone through like numerous heartbreaks. It's like, it's a little bit more of a genuineness that they speak with you, right? It's like, they're not gonna like. It's like, we're not playing games. We're gonna get to the heart of things. It's like, what do you want from me? It's like, what do you like? It's like, what do you want from me? And like, that's why I like that quote from last week with the faith thing. It's like Jesus, like the blind man came to Jesus and was like, hey, I'm blind. Jesus is like, what do you want? He's like, can you help me see again? And Jesus is like, sure. Boom. Gotcha. Hey, that's pretty dope. Like, I like to hear about stuff like that. But it's like when you lose hope and, like, you have to guard yourself. It's like you're very to the point. You're like not patient with like false promises, right? And I think I have a lot of sympathy for people who are non-believers, who are atheists, who are Christians, because that's how they feel about our faith. That's how they feel about what I believe in, because they feel like they've been disappointed either because of like abuse in the church, incorrect like teachings, something they've seen in the Bible that just like it says. It's like, why is it saying this? This is terrible. I can't believe it's like hurt people that they've known, and it's like you can't help but sympathize with people like that. If you read the Bible and you think like, oh, everything, like if you read the Bible yourself and you think, oh, everything's perfect and great, it's like, this sounds like a horror story. It sounds like a lot of bad stuff, and it's like even difficult for like people that are of the faith to like reconcile some of this stuff. But and they get really caught up on it, and it's like I can't always justify a lot of things. It's like I have to have a lot of counsel and a lot of explanation like done for myself. I'm making this video, but I have to have a lot of it done for myself to keep not to keep, but to like continue that understanding that it's not just I read something and then my understanding is like the truth, and it's like, oh, this is terrible. It's like I've read plenty of stuff in the Bible and it's like that. It's just like, ugh. And even now you still read it and it's like, geez, it's like, what do you make of this? Like, what am I supposed to know about this? It's like supposed to just mean what it means, and it's awful. It seems that way, right? So yeah, I have a lot of sympathy for atheists. They'll have their points, and it's like you can't just act like they're complete morons. They read it, they say this is terrible, and then they present it to you, and then you're like, So, hoping in things and then losing that hope because of like the promises weren't delivered or the gifts weren't given to you, like grace or whatever, like, or the promises of heaven or whatever, the 72 virgins. It's like, ugh, man, that's like the worst. So hope can do like a lot. It's like, understand, like, remember yourself when you like remember a time when you had like great hope. Even now you might have great hope in something, and just see the strength and the power in that, and what that really means. What exactly is the hope? It's like it's these gifts that you're expecting. It's the imperishable, the undefiled, and the unfading. Because you don't hope in something and then hope in something that's going to be bad. Does that make sense? Like, maybe some people do. I'm speaking broadly, but when you have hope in something, it's like a good thing for you. It's these gifts for you. It's undefiled. It's unperishable. It's like a relationship. It's forever lasting. That's what you're hoping in, right? Or this pleasure that's forever lasting. You're hoping in that. But as soon as it's gone, like, it's almost like your hope is gone. It's like, what am I supposed to do now? Go find it again, because now I have like this hope that's like lost. Whatever, hope in science, hope in these discoveries, hope in whatever. And it's like this hope that's good, but it's like it needs to be placed appropriately, because when you follow things that are false, and you have all this hope in them, it can leave you bitter and brokenhearted and not hoping in anything. But that's not the way to look at it. When you're disappointed or when something isn't fulfilled, it's not a reason to become like sad or whatever. You're like everything's terrible now. It's like, understand that if you're not hoping in something that's eternal and is perfect and is completely completely promised and delivered every single time on whatever it is that they're saying, then it's probably going to disappoint you. And if you have that understanding, then it's not going to leave you completely bitter and hard-hearted and all that stuff, right? So that's what it means, like, here, like, these gifts. the genuineness of your faith. So it's like when you have hope, you know that you have genuine like trust or faith in something. That's a good indication that your faith is doing like is like you actually have faith in something. It's like you can feel that hope for these gifts, grace, heaven, all that stuff for Christians, right? So, 1 Peter 13, yeah. All right, a call to holy living. Therefore, prepare your minds for action. Discipline yourselves. Set all your hope on the grace that Jesus Christ will bring you when he is revealed. See, it's like the grace. I don't really know what grace is exactly. I'm guessing it's heaven. But it might just be like the gifts and the virtues that you're like given because you have faith and hope. But I don't know, you have hope. I mean, I guess you can have hope in something that you haven't given because it's a gift that's... Let's keep going. Like obedient children, do not be conformed to the desires that you formerly had in ignorance. Instead, as he who called you is holy, be holy yourselves in all your conduct, for it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy. If you invoke blah blah blah, impartially according to deeds, live in reverence. All right. Us through him you have come to trust in God, who raised him from the dead and gave him glory, so that your faith and hope are set on God. You can read the rest of it. It's 13 through 25. I just didn't read it because like I think it just I'm trying to make like a certain point about it. The rest of it just kind of like goes to a different perspective or describes something else. So it's another that that's what you like, the grace that Jesus Christ has, and like that's, they say in the Bible, it's the perfect hope. Like it's the perfect hope you can have, because if you have hope in anything else, it's probably going to disappoint you. Which is like, you need to be a hopeful human being. Like you can't be like, I'm not gonna have hope in that because like it's gonna disappoint me. It's like hope. Make sure that like the priority that you have in hope. And I'm not trying to give advice, I'm kind of talking a little bit to myself, but the hope that you have, like the priority number one is, the grace that Jesus Christ has promised you, like through like his death and resurrection, right? But having hope in everything else is fine. It's like you can have hope in stuff. Have even hope in people that you think are misled, because they're people. If you don't have hope in people, then it's like, like that's also like one of the greatest ways to like commit like terrible atrocities if you have a lot of power, is not having faith, hope, and love like in people. Because if you don't have it in people just generally, then it's going to lead you to alienate people naturally and think like they're other. And that's when you can like objectify them and do the worst things to people. Like you can lie to them. I mean, I could say kill them, but like most people won't do that. It's like, you can do like a lot of terrible stuff and be a shitty person to somebody because you don't have like faith, hope, and love in them or whatever. But like in an appropriate context, right? Like up to a certain point, that like you don't have hope in what they're saying necessarily if you think what they're saying is wrong, but hope in them as a person, that whatever their conscience is leading them to, it's like the truth, and it's seeking justice. And it's like, if they aren't right now, if they seem like they're just trying to like self-destruct, you have faith, hope, and love in that like you can help them, and that like they're worth helping, that sort of thing, right? So hope in the sense here that like these gifts, this perfect grace that you're being offered like because of Jesus, it's the best hope you can have. And it's like these gifts that you're hoping in because of your trust in them. You have trust in somebody, so you have this hope that they're gonna give you something, these gifts. And it seems like a little bit selfish, but that's all like what a relationship is. It's like you have hope that they're gonna give you something. So, hey, it's appropriate. Like people want to act like, oh, I don't want anything from you. It's like, yeah, you do. You expect something from me. You expect like a good life from me. Like you hope in somebody that they're gonna have a good life. That's the gift that you like. Them being united with God in like a Christian sense, it's a hope. That's a gift. It's like maybe that's like the gift that you need to be looking for in people, or hope that they're gonna be better financially, better emotionally. So it's like that's a gift for you, right? Seeing it that way. So yeah, dope. Let's see, another 1 Peter. There's a lot of 1 Peters, and then there's other stuff too. 1 Peter 5:10. Oh, I didn't write the timestamp. Crap. 24:58. Whatever. I'll just have to look. And after you have suffered for a little while, the God of all grace, who who's called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will himself restore, support, strengthen, and establish you. The gifts, you know. To him be the power forever and ever. Amen. That's a song by Randy Travis. Y'all should check that out. But this is called The Tending of the Flock, chapter 5, 1 Peter. A bunch of it's like discipline yourself, humble yourself, all that stuff. So read it. I suggest it. But like this video is getting super long, so I don't think I should read it. So like the suffering, and then, you know, like even that when you're suffering, right? Like some of the people that suffer have the worst hope ever, because it's like, well, things aren't gonna get better. But some of the people that suffer have the greatest hope ever. So it's just this fine line of just like, what's your perspective on things, you know? And it's a mental thing too. It's not easy, because if you're in a position of privilege, if you're doing better than somebody, just even if your life isn't that great, you know, like you're drug addicted, you got alcohol in your family, things are falling apart, but your life is still better than this other person's. How do you come to them, you know, with a little bit more like of a better perspective and like life and stuff and things? Do you tell them like, have hope, have faith? What's wrong with you? Like you can't. It's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to you because like things are going better for you, you know, but you feel like a chump when like their life, it seems like it's not even going as great as yours, and they're more grateful and hopeful than you are, you know. It's like, look at somebody like yeah, maybe your life is really good, you know, like who can I talk to then, you know? Like look at celebrities, for example. They don't seem to have, like, a lot of them don't seem to have that much hope. I mean, not a lot of them, but the people that are in the media, that they put in the media, it's like they lose hope, they lose faith, they get divorced, all this stuff, and their life goes to shambles, they're drug addicted, all this stuff. And you're just like, man, that's pretty rough, you know? You know, like, my life ain't as good as yours, but, like, why don't you have, like, hope or faith or trust and all this stuff, you know? Why is your life spiraling out of control? Why'd you make that first bad decision and then it just continued to get worse? You know, and you can have sympathy for people that are doing better than you, of course. Like, it's not like, if anything, pray for them, right? But hope can be found in people that, like, suffer the most, but it can also, like, be absent in people that suffer the most, you know? So it's like, it's just like understanding that you could be on either side or the other is like, it can help you decide like which is better to have, which is a better side to be on, you know? It's like to suffer and then to have hope, you know, have faith and hope and all that stuff, and do acts of good, like love or whatever, or like have no hope and just like pity. And it's like, you understand that you can be on either side, you know what I'm saying? Like if you suffer, so like that's like an indication that like when you watch people that have it worse than you suffer, and you can see that if they do have it worse than you, they can be super like hopeful and receive all these gifts, you know, that you just don't have in your life because you're not hopeful. Or they can just be completely bitter and hard-hearted, right? And like you can still sympathize with those people because like they have it worse than you. It's like, of course, that makes complete sense why they're like that or why they feel that way, you know. And also you too, you know, it's the same thing. You can see that, and you can see which side do I need to be on, and you can choose like probably which is the best side to be on, and it helps you the most, you know. Even if you're the rest of your life is suffering, it's like having hope in something, like in what, I don't know exactly. I guess the government, I guess people, you know, God. You make your choice, but having hope is something important, you know, to get through all that, and it can like push you into the best parts of yourself, like doing good acts of the will or whatever, change the world. Yeah, you know, you can be strengthened, established, all this. Son of a gun. Job. I'm sorry, Molly. Yeah, but the rest of this, like First Thessalonians, you know, bro, like it's like hope. First Thessalonians 1:3, I think it is, or like 2:3. I think First Thessalonians like 1:3. Bro, honestly, I do not know where most of these books are in the Bible. And does that make me a bad Christian? Probably. But whatever. I was exactly not looking for Colossians. There's Ephesians. First Ephesians 18. I won't read the whole thing. Maybe I'll read the whole thing. So that with the eyes of your heart enlightened, you may know what is the hope to which he has called you, what are the riches of his glorious inheritance among the saints. Boom. It's just, yeah, I'm getting to the end of this video, but like hope is pretty good. Another timestamp, sorry. 29:52. So yeah, hope is just like, it's like I'm saying have it, but trust is the first step you need to take, and then having hope in something, it's appropriate to be guarded, against things that are false, but having hope in something is what motivates a lot of people to do things. It's hard to trust somebody. Like trusting somebody is like one of the most difficult things you can do, right? But having hope in somebody after that is kind of second nature when you trust somebody, because like it just makes sense. It's like two in one. They kind of come together. If you don't have hope in somebody when you trust them, and it's like, even if you have like, even if like you're in a trying to manipulate somebody, like even those people have hope in those people that they're manipulating. Like it's a messed up thing to say, but it's like if like politicians for whatever, they're trying to manipulate the not all of them, but let's say they do, throughout history. They have trust in people that they're going to do the terrible things that they need to do the terrible things that they expect of them, because they have trust that these people trust them or whatever, and they can use that to their advantage, and then they have hope in the terrible things that people can do. So hope and faith, it's like, it's a very powerful thing, be used for good or evil, and just like take your pick. So deuces. All right.